Imagine a world where maps were more like paintings and directions were as confusing as a dream. In ancient times, the only way to find your way was to follow the sun, the stars, and the wind. But what if the sky was cloudy, or the stars were hidden? You might as well be lost at sea, drifting aimlessly without a clue. This was the reality for sailors before the invention of the magnetic compass. But the compass changed everything, and its story is a tale of adventure, superstition, and scientific discovery. In the early days of sailing, the most important directions were the winds. The Chinese, for example, had a deep understanding of the wind seasons as early as the 1st century B.C. They classified the winds into 24 different types and used kites to study their behavior. This knowledge was so valuable that they even developed weather vanes, which are considered the earliest pointer reading devices used in the natural sciences. The ancient Greeks also saw the winds as a primary source of direction. They were so accustomed to using the names of the winds to indicate direction that wind became a synonym for direction itself. On early maps, the symbolic winds with their puffed cheeks and strong breath were the main markers of direction. For the Greeks, the winds were not just natural phenomena. They were powerful forces that shaped the world. When Christopher Columbus set sail, his crew thought of direction in terms of the winds, or los ventos. The Portuguese called their compass card a rosa dos ventos, or wind rose. Even religious figures like the Madonna in Cordova were associated with the winds. She was known as Nuestra Señora del Buen Aire, or Our Lady of the Fair Wind. Before the magnetic compass, sailors all over Europe identified direction with the wind. The winds were not just practical tools for navigation. They were subjects of great interest and speculation. The Roman philosopher Seneca defined wind as air flowing one way. Christian mystics like Hildegard of Bingen believed that the winds moved the firmament from east to west and kept the elements of the earth in balance. According to her, the four winds, which were God's wings, prevented the fires of the south, the waters of the west, and the dark shadows of the north from covering the entire earth. In the 12th century, William of Conches proposed elaborate theories about the role of the winds in shaping climates, moving oceans, and causing earthquakes. For example, Boreas from the north was thought to bring cold air, while Auster from the south brought warmth. These ideas were popularized in the 13th century by Bartholomew the Englishman, who wrote that the north wind made people tall and fair, while the south wind made people short and dark. One of the most fascinating legends about the winds comes from Gervase of Tilbury. He told the story of a valley in the ancient kingdom of Ares, which was sterile because it was enclosed by mountains and no winds could enter. An archbishop named Caesarius, in the time of Charlemagne, filled his glove with sea breezes and released them in the valley. This created a wind known as the Pontianum, which transformed the valley into a fertile haven. European map makers in the Middle Ages adopted the classical names for the winds. The Tower of the Winds in Athens, built in the 2nd century B.C., is a beautiful example of how the winds were symbolized in ancient times. Each of the 8 winds was represented with a unique symbol, and the tower itself was a testament to the importance of the winds in navigation. The Arab world had a unique advantage in the quest for direction, because Islam required that mosques face Mecca. To achieve this, Muslim scientists used astrology to improve on Ptolemy's figures for latitude and longitude. Even during the Middle Ages, when Christian Europe was dominated by theological geography, Muslim scientists were making significant advancements in navigation. The magnetic compass, which appeared in Europe in the 12th century, revolutionized navigation. Before the compass, directions were often local and relative, marked by the breezes in a particular place. The magnetic compass allowed sailors to find an absolute direction anywhere on the globe, without complex astronomical calculations. Columbus could take his bearings directly for Cipangu, Japan, and stay on the same latitude, even without celestial navigation. The wind rose, which marked the directions of the winds, was gradually replaced by the magnetic compass rose, which provided a more precise definition of direction. Initially, the compass card was circular and marked with the wind rose, and a magnetic needle was placed in a dish of water. The pilot would turn the card based on the direction of the needle. In the 14th century, someone had the brilliant idea of attaching the needle to the card, so they would both move together, keeping the card pointed in the right direction. The magnetic compass was a game-changer for exploration. It gave sailors the confidence to venture into unknown waters and return home safely. The compass provided a worldwide standard for direction, much like the mechanical clock provided a standard for time. Both inventions occurred in Europe during the same centuries, and they were crucial for the age of exploration. The magnetic compass was first used in China around A.D. 1000, but it did not appear in European writings until the 12th century, when Alexander Neckham, an English monk, mentioned it. It is unclear how the compass came to Europe, but it may have been transmitted overland from China. Initially, the compass was marked to point south, like the Chinese needles. In the 17th century, European surveyors and astronomers still used compasses that pointed south, which suggests that the compass may have been influenced by Chinese technology. The powers of the lodestone or magnetite were often associated with dark, magical forces. In China, the lodestone was used for divination, and in the West, it was part of the magician's toolkit. St. Augustine was amazed by the ability of magnetite to attract iron, and even give iron the power to attract other iron. Roger Bacon, a prominent medieval scientist, played a significant role in the history of the compass. Despite its magical associations, the compass eventually became an everyday tool for sailors. During the early days of the compass, many sailors were wary of its powers and kept it hidden. The binnacle, or little house, where the compass was kept, was a place of secrecy. Even in Columbus time, a pilot who used the magnetic compass could be accused of trafficking with Satan. However, Prince Henry the Navigator, a Portuguese prince, worked to overcome these superstitions by encouraging the use of the compass among his pilots. By the time of Columbus, the magnetic compass had become indispensable, and captains carried extra needles for added security. The compass was particularly useful in the Mediterranean, where cloudy weather and overcast skies made navigation difficult. Before the compass, seafaring trade between distant points in the Mediterranean was limited to clear weather from May to October. During the winter months from October to March, ships were often confined to port. With the compass, Venetian fleets could make 2 round trips to the Levant each year, rather than just one. The compass also allowed ships to take advantage of the prevailing winds during the cloudy months, making winter travel more feasible. In the Indian Ocean, the monsoon winds were so regular that they served as a natural compass. Sailors in this region could navigate by the winds themselves, and the clear tropical skies made it easy to find direction. However, in the North Sea and the Baltic, the magnetic compass was slower to catch on. Much of the sailing in these regions was done in shallow waters, where sailors used soundings to find their way. The vast continental shelf off northwest Europe made shallow seas, and knowing the depth was crucial for navigation. Experienced northern pilots became familiar with the seafloor and combined the new compass with their traditional methods. In the mid-15th century, English pilot books began to include instructions for using the compass along with soundings. For example, a book of sailing directions from Cape Finisterre in Spain to England emphasized the importance of depth and tides. When leaving Spain, sailors were advised to set their course northeast and use soundings to find their way. This combination of old and new navigation techniques ensured safer travel in the challenging waters of the North Sea and the Baltic. The magnetic compass was, in many ways, a catalyst for exploration. It allowed sailors to venture into unknown waters and return safely, opening up new routes and destinations. The compass provided a universal standard for direction, much like the mechanical clock provided a standard for time. Both inventions were crucial for the age of exploration, and they helped to shape the modern world. In conclusion, the magnetic compass is a symbol of human ingenuity and the quest for knowledge. From its origins in China to its adoption in Europe, the compass has played a vital role in navigation and exploration. It has helped sailors find their way across the vast oceans, opened up new trade routes, and expanded our understanding of the world. The compass may seem like a simple device, but its impact on human history is profound. It is a testament to the power of innovation and the enduring human desire to explore the unknown.